Tempe Station opened on 15th October 1884 at a distance of 6.84 kilometres from Sydney Central. Plans have been in place to name the station Cook's River after the adjacent waterway, although it opened as Tempe. The name is taken from a mansion built south of the river in the mid-1830s by Scottish immigrant Alexander Brodie Spark. This was named Tempe House after the Vale of Tempe next to Mount Olympus in Greece, Tempe being a Greek word for beautiful valley. The Cook's River, meanwhile, which rises at Yaguna and flows for 23 kilometres to the Tasman Sea at Botany Bay, is named after Captain James Cook, the British explorer who mapped and explored most of Australia's east coast, including Botany Bay, in 1770. The buildings on platforms 1 and 2 date from opening day in 1884 and are some of only a few remaining buildings from the Illawarra line's original construction, the other was having been demolished and replaced. The line was originally double track, but Tempe had its own siding. Also remaining is the station master's residence behind platform 4, which is now in private ownership. Platform 4 was added in 1918 along with the quadruplication of the line, and this received its own building too, though that was demolished in the 1990s and replaced with the current canopy, which serves the same purpose, despite being about as architecturally interesting as a turnip. The quadruplication in 1918 also brought a new footbridge to Tempe Station, along with an overhead booking office, both of which remain in place today. The booking office was formerly built of weatherboard, but was reclad in harder plank in 1993, and remains as such today. The quadruplication also saw Platform 3 come into use, which may or may not have sat on the old siding, and the building modified to match. In 1926, the Illawarra line was electrified as far as Oakley, so Tempe saw Sydney's first electric train service pass through. 5 years later, on 21st September 1931, it became a junction station with the opening of the East Hills line to East Hills. Not this one though, this is the 1987 rebuild. Originally, the East Hills line was electrified only to Kingsgrove, with CPH rail motors running between there and East Hills, the wires eventually reaching the latter in 1939. Tempe was the terminus of most of these electric services, whereupon passengers would change to Illawarra trains to the city, although some peak hour services did operate through to Central, St James, or the City Circle upon its completion in 1956. As the East Hills Line junction, Tempe was a fairly major interchange station, but that changed in April 2000 and the opening of the airport line. As part of this, a new station was opened at Walleye Creek, named after a nearby waterway, and situated less than 500 metres away from Tempe, albeit on the other side of the Cooks. And this provided the interchange between East Hills and Illawarra trains that had previously been Tempe's job. Most East Hills trains began operating via the airport instead of via Tempe, and whilst a few peak hour services do still operate via Sydenham, these do not call here, barring one train in the 2020 COVID-19 timetable, which no longer runs. As such, the airport line made Tempe's importance virtually evaporate, and nowadays more trains pass through than stop. T4 Illawarra line trains call here only twice per hour in the off-peak, an anomaly for a suburban station within 10 kilometres of Central. Nevertheless, the station recorded 1,190 boardings in the 2013-14 financial year, ranking it the 149th most used station on the Greater Sydney network out of 298, and only the 6th least used on the Illawarra line, above Willoware, Loftus, Como, Heathcote and Waterfall. And on that note, it's time for some trains.